What if I told you that the success of a change initiative has less to do with the change itself and more to do with how you lead people through the change? I've worked with many leaders going through mergers, acquisitions, digital transformations, new strategies, and I've seen leaders who inspire commitment and others who unintentionally create resistance. And the difference is not in intelligence, it's not in experience, and it's definitely not in having a perfect plan. It simply boils down to one truth. People don't follow change, they follow leaders. If you're watching this channel for the first time, my name is Nadine Zainoun. I'm a master certified coach who's passionate about emotional intelligence and helping leaders build trust. Give me a few minutes and I'll show you a simple, practical framework that would help you lead through change with greater confidence, impact, and trust. Over the years, I found that for change to be successful, leaders need to focus on three things: clarity, confidence, and connection. Now, what I mean by clarity is not having all the answers, and it's definitely not having a perfect plan with a detailed roadmap. What I mean is something deeper: clarity about who we want to be as leaders during this change. Because when change hits, it kind of tests us. When pressure is high, when there's resistance, when deadlines are tight, we tend to start reacting rather than leading intentionally. So before any change, ask yourself, who do I want to be during this process? Do I want to be a leader who's calm when others are anxious? Do I want to be a leader who listens before responding? Do I want to be a leader who builds trust rather than fear? Getting clear on that is very important before any change, because people are not just watching the change. They're watching you. They're watching how you show up when things become uncertain. They're watching how you handle difficult conversations. They're watching whether your behavior is aligned with your values. And that's why in such moments, your presence is way more important than any plan. Now, the second C is confidence. And when we hear the word confidence, we think certainty, strength, reassuring people, having all the answers, but that's not the type of confidence I'm talking about. I'm talking about true self-confidence that comes from deep self-awareness, knowing what you're thinking, what you're feeling, how you're behaving, and how you're impacting others. Because honestly, you're also experiencing emotions during this change. You might be leading the change, but you're still living it. And those emotions are going to impact your presence and the way you show up. I'll give you a small example from my personal life. 4 years ago, we moved from Lebanon to Canada with our family. And that was a very tough decision. And I was feeling very uncertain. I was worried about the future of the kids. Did we do the right thing? Are they going to appreciate this? And so on and so forth. So that worry, although my intention was to be with my kids and to help them through this, but that worry that I hadn't acknowledged made me become defensive. So when I heard them saying something bad about moving to Canada or complaining that they're not feeling okay, instead of sitting with them and listening, I would jump in and start convincing them why Canada is a good option. So you see, the reason I was not really living the intention that I had, it's because my emotions weren't processed. So it's only after I sat with myself, I acknowledged my own emotions and what I'm going through, that I was able to sit with my kids. And that is my message to you. Process your emotions. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? How is this impacting me? What's the story I'm telling myself? What's my tendency to behave? Is it aligned with the intention that I had set, or is it different? So processing your emotions will allow you to feel more confident about being with your team. And processing your emotions is the first step before you sit with your team and help them process their own emotions. Now, the third C is connection. If there's anything I learned through change, is that resistance in people comes from fear and not because they have bad intentions. Fear of losing something that's important to them, fear of failing, fear of not being relevant anymore, fear of not catching up with all the change. So when we as leaders address resistance as a problem, we become more forceful because we start to convince people, we put more pressure on them, we give them more information, and that only reinforces the fear and the resistance. So the question is, what if we do something different? What if instead of judging them as resistant and negative, we approach things with curiosity? So instead of thinking, why are they being so negative? We ask ourselves, what are they afraid of? Because remember, when people are resistant, they're trying to protect something that is very valuable to them and that matters to them. So when we approach things with curiosity, everything changes. And of course, couple that curiosity to good listening and listening to connect to them and to connect to their experience and what they're feeling, not listening to convince them or listening to judge them. When we listen to people truly and deeply, something shifts. They open up, they stop being resistant, and they start accepting whatever comes their way. Remember, people don't need us to solve their fears. They just need to know that their fears matter. So create that space of curiosity and listening. Leaders who have been able to apply the 3 C's, clarity, confidence, and connection, they started seeing change in a different way. Not as something that they need to manage, but as an opportunity where they can become their best and others around them can too. And that is when leaders are remembered way longer than any change has taken place.